Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Fountain of Life podcast. I'm sure there have been times when you've been in a conversation and of everything that is said, maybe just one story go past every filter and every defense and lands in your heart, and it stirs something within your heart. Jesus usually accomplishes that, and he does that not by beginning with an argument. He often begins with a picture: a farmer scattering a seed, a lost sheep, a father waiting by the roadside, a Samaritan stopping to help somebody, and somehow these stories still read like they were written for us today. They are as relevant as they were 2,000 years ago. But the question is, why did Jesus not tell people exactly what he wanted to tell them? He chooses to use these parables to show them the truth. Why not just tell them everything? If you are wondering, you are not alone. The disciples felt the same way. So why don't we try to understand why Jesus chose to use parables?
Lord, you are the fountain of life, restorer of my soul. I worship you today. Lord, you are the fountain of life, restorer of my soul. I worship you today. Lord, you are worship you today. Lord, you are the fountain of you restore my soul.
This is your host, Zuta, and I welcome you to today's episode. Today we are beginning a new series, Lessons from the Parables of Jesus. Why are the parables so important? The truth is, the parables are more than memorable Bible stories. They are mirrors that reveal what is happening within us. And somehow, those mirrors also show us the kingdom of heaven. Because several of those parables, Jesus says, and the kingdom of heaven is like. Then also, the parables speak of timeless truths about the human condition: pride, humility, fear, faith, forgiveness, bitterness, distraction, and devotion, greed, generosity, you name it. That is why their lessons are still very, very deeply relevant today, especially against the backdrop of the noise in our world today and our value systems that are going south on us, the pressures and all the competing voices. So, for the next couple of episodes, we want to explore the subject of the lessons in the parables. I don't say I understand every single parable, but as many as the Holy Spirit will reveal through His Word, I will share with you by God's grace. So today we want to launch off by trying to understand why He even used parables. Why did Jesus even use parables at all? And why does it matter? Because once we get to understand why He chose to use parables, it kind of builds up a desire within us to try to understand them, and then also to use the lessons that are inherent within those parables to help us navigate the challenges of our world, build our value systems, and everything that Jesus had tried to do. You see, it's not just you and I who are baffled by Jesus' approach to the truth, that is, in using parables. Even the disciples asked Him. So in Matthew chapter 13, from the verse 10, Matthew chapter 13, Jesus was talking he gave a parable. That's the parable of the sower. And when he finished on one line, verse 9. And I want us to start this episode looking at why he taught in parables from verse 9 of Matthew chapter 13. He says, "He who has ears to hear, let him be listening, and let him consider and perceive and comprehend by hearing." This is the Amplified Bible. Well, the truth is, everybody who was standing in that audience had ears. So of course they heard. So when he was telling them, the one who has ears, let him hear, he's not just talking about the physical act of hearing, because everybody in that audience have ears. But he's talking about spiritual perception. Being able to hear, digest, and pick the lessons out of what you've heard. That is what he's talking about. So when he finished, the disciples came to him, just like we are doing now, asking, "Why do you teach in parables?" So the disciples came in and asked him and said, "Why do you speak to them in parables?" So they asked, if there's a truth that you want to tell, obviously you have a lot of things to say. Why don't you say it in plain language? Why do you choose to speak to them in parables? Then verse 11, he replied to them, "To you it has been given to know the secrets and mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. But to them it has not been given." So we begin to see why Jesus is speaking in parables. Verse 12 goes on further to say that, "For whoever has spiritual knowledge, to him will more be given, and he will be furnished richly, so that he will have abundance. And from him who has not, even what he has will be taken away. This is the reason that I speak to them in parables, because having the power of seeing, they do not see, and having the power of hearing, they do not hear, nor do they grasp and understand." Then he goes on to quote from Isaiah, verse 14, says, "In them indeed is a process of fulfillment of this prophecy of Isaiah, which says, you shall indeed hear, but never grasp and understand. And you shall indeed look, but never see and perceive." It was getting a bit more complicated here. So, he's speaking to them in parables. One has something to do with the attitude of the people, the audience. And then also, it has something to do with prophecy. And then, it also has something to do with the disciples. What is the distinction between the disciples and the other people? Jesus said, it's been given to the disciples for them to understand the secrets or the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. But to them, it has not been given. Well, does that mean that Jesus is discriminating between the people and his disciples? The answer is no. You see, the disciples have chosen to follow Jesus and learn. And because of that, there is a divine imperative for them to know the truth. These listeners, they are there for all sorts of reasons. We don't know what their primary focus is. Are they there to learn? Are they there to challenge Jesus? Are they there to contest the truth? What is their mindset towards the truth of the kingdom of heaven? So Jesus is saying, the person who has gotten something, more is being given to him, or more is given to him. But the one who are not interested, they are not seeing, they are not hearing. Even the little that they hear, they can't even hold on to it. So there is something to say about people's approach to the truth in how much God opens their eyes to see. If you are interested, he will give you. If you are not, even the little that you know will go away. So it's a bit more complicated than he choosing to talk to them in parables, there's something that speaks about the hearts of the people. And because of that, he's choosing to use parables. Come back to this point. But the other thing also is that he said those people are where they are because of a historical attitude that they've had, that they've never tolerated the truth, they've never wanted to know things about God, and because of that, their hearts are hardened, their hearts can't perceive the truth. So Isaiah prophesied this a long time ago. Remember, God is not going to push his truth on people. They have to seek him to understand and to know. So he didn't choose to speak to them in parables because he doesn't want them to know the truth. But the people cannot even receive the truth because of the state of their hearts. Okay. Now let's go. I will clarify this a bit further. So the parables are really not about concealing the truth. No. It is rather about revealing the truth. So the bottom line is, if the people were really interested, they are going to come and ask him, what does this mean? So he teaches them in parable. He brings this more or less like big image and, analogy, and brings it out. If you are really somebody who wants to know, you want to ask him, you want to find out. So it's not about concealing the truth, no, but rather it's about causing people to dig deeper. Because from the way God has dealt with humanity, he wants us to approach him, to come to him to find out. Because when you seek, you will find. But what happens if you don't seek? You don't find. So he didn't just go and tell them everything in plain truth, but rather he more or less covered things up a bit to encourage searching, to encourage people, to pull them from where they are, to make a decision. Do I really want to know this? Do I really want to understand this? So the parables function as a filter. They offer deep insight, to his followers, while keeping the truth hidden from the listeners. So if you are just listening, you are not going to gain much. So it is really about bringing out a relationship, a fellowship that helps us to come to the place of a deeper truth. So it places the food one step away from you so you can take a step, make a choice, and come get it. That is the effort. So that is why he's, one of the reasons why he always, or he mostly, spoke to the people in parables. Now the other reason why he did that, or why he gives them in parables. So the parables, as we relate to them, they confirm who we are. If you really want to know, then you are going to know. It helps us to confirm that we are true hearers, or whether we are not. Are we really interested? Do we want to know why some of the seed fell by the wayside and why some fell on good ground? What does it mean? That heart attitude helps us to be able to understand. So he uses this allegorical stories to illustrate or teach truth so that we can be able to grasp the truth based on our interest level. So he told them, to you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom. You are already in the path. You are learning. So you are going to know. But if you don't, that's it. Okay. The other reason why he teaches in parables, primarily, parables confirm a prophecy that is part of the divine signature for his coming to be, man among, God coming to be among us. So in Isaiah, first Psalm 78, verse 2 to 3, the Bible says, I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which we have heard and know, and our fathers have told us. So the psalmist wrote about it, and this is one of the messianic psalms, that God will teach, or when Jesus comes to walk among us, he will open his mouth in a parable, and he will utter dark sayings of old. So basically, Jesus was confirming prophecy. If we go back to Matthew chapter 13, verse 34 downwards, that is exactly what we are going to find. So part of the divine signature, part of the reason why he came, and we know that he's fulfilling the scriptures, is because he's teaching the people in parables. If we come to Matthew chapter 13, verse 34 downwards, this is what the Bible says. And all these things Jesus spoke to the multitudes in parables, and without a parable he did not speak to them, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things kept secret from the foundation of the world. That is what we read in Psalm 78. So he was actually fulfilling the scriptures. So anytime you read a parable in the New Testament, anytime you read a parable or you get a lesson from the parables, remember it is part of the divine signature. It's part of the divine identity of Jesus Christ coming to walk this earth as God. He was fulfilling that prophecy. Okay. So he teaching in parables, among other reasons, is a fulfillment of prophecy, because the Bible has prophesied that he's going to open his mouth in parables and utter things kept secret from the foundation of the world. So anytime Jesus is teaching and he says the kingdom of heaven is like, these are deep secrets. These are things that ordinarily we will not know. It's a mirror for us to see the kingdom of heaven. So anytime he opens his mouth in the parable, he is fulfilling scriptures and then helping us to understand. And the other reason why he uses parable, if you've been to any theological seminary or you've had any training at all, one of the things that you obviously learn is using illustrations in sermons. So Jesus had really diverse audience. He's speaking to so many people, different cultural backings and all of it. So he had to find a way to let the truth come down to the level of the people that he's speaking with. He could have gone and then talk about some big mysteries, but he chose simple terms, talking about a neighbor, talking about a seed, talking about a fig tree, all those examples, those allegorical examples that he had, was primarily to bring the truth down to the level of his audience. And there were several cultures. Jerusalem is as cosmopolitan as maybe New York or some of the bigger cities of our world. There are different cultures, different languages, all sort of things. So if you are teaching and you want to get your message across all those cultures, you need to place it in a tone so that everybody can understand or people can relate to. So he used pictures, common everyday things: salt, light, bread, sheep, seeds, common human experiences. So he brought deep truths out using very simple things that people can understand. So there's value in understanding the lessons from this episode, from this lessons about these parables, because Jesus related deep spiritual truths in a very simplified way that we can all understand. Then the fourth reason why Jesus who use parables is that it compels the listener to enter the story. So, for instance, there have been instances where he was narrating a parable, and then the Pharisees took offense because they could read whatever he was saying, that probably he was speaking against them. So, the parable awakened his listener's imagination. He didn't just start with an argument or start with inviting the people to debate or anything. He tells them a farmer went out to sow seeds. He tells them that, they should compare themselves to the lilies of the field. He tells them, about the prodigal son who gathered all his stuff and he's left his house. These are relatable stories that invites further inquiry, invites us to look deeper at ourselves, to see where we fit in those stories. He tells them about a wedding feast, and all the people who were invited didn't attend. And the Lord of the feast says, go to the street, bring everybody else. Bring everybody. And then he finds somebody who didn't have a wedding attire and tells them, oh, this person should be cast into the outer darkness. He says, this is like the kingdom of heaven. So, in all of these parables, the stories that he used, he's literally inviting us into the story. Whether we were standing in the audience back in the day or we are reading it 2,000 years later, there is something for everybody. You find yourself in that story and it engages your ears about the kingdom of heaven. So the essence of using parables is to invite further inquiry, get you into the narrative, and then get you to make a decision. That is why right at the beginning we said the parable is for those who are interested, who want to learn, because the lesson there is something that you need to dig a little deeper to fully understand. And when you understand, it challenges you, it stimulates you, it causes you to take an action. So the parables compels us to listen. It helps us to be able to engage with God in a deeper level. Okay? It helps us to engage with the truth in a lot of ways that ordinary we will not. So having brought out these reasons, okay, the next thing that we need to do in subsequent episodes is to begin to look at each of these parables and look at the lessons that we can learn, how they apply to us, how we can engage with the truth that Jesus is trying to teach. So next time you read a parable, think about all this. That one is fulfilling prophecy, is concealing the truth so that you and I will dig a little deeper. Is using simple illustration for us to grasp. And above all, the parables invite us into the story to be able to understand where we are in that narrative and what we ought to do, the truth inside that parable. I'm going to pause here today as we journey in this new series, Lessons from the Parables of Jesus. I thank you so much if you have been with us all this while, and don't miss any of the next series of episodes as we specifically look at these parables. If you don't already subscribe to this podcast, I pray that you will do that. You hit the subscribe button, and above all, you can download these episodes on Apple, Google, Amazon, Spotify, and all the other places where you get your good podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today, and hopefully we'll come your way with another episode looking at the lessons from the parables of Jesus, even after we've laid this foundation. Why Jesus teaches parables. Thank you so much, and may God richly bless you.
Fountain of my life, I worship you today. Lord, only you are. Yes, Lord, you restore my soul. I worship you today. Yeah.
The book of Matthew 11:28-29. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest